the great conservative movement of America and of our time. A brush fire of freedom that's being lit all over this country. We, as an irate, tireless American populace, will overcome the few radical leftists that control the levers of power today. Joe Biden's failed economic policies has given us inflation like you can't believe, and the border is in disarray.
It's amazing how few of the people commenting on this have actually bothered to go see what's happening. Well, Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona actually went to the border.
Biggs, where's Andy? Boy, oh boy, Andy. There's a guy. He's tough.
Hey everyone, welcome to a special edition of What's the Big's Idea, my semi-regular podcast. We're here dealing with the border situation. We've brought you people almost every day for the last little bit, trying to give you a picture of what's going on with the border. And today I have a great guest. He's a good friend of mine. He's a county supervisor from Yuma County, former chairman of the Arizona GOP. He also serves on the Arizona-Mexico Commission and is the chairman of the Arizona State Fair and Exposition, which is just a few of his deals, because he also serves on the board of a number of like community food banks and stuff like that in Yuma. He's one of the busiest guys I know. He's got a beautiful family, and he's a good friend, and he's my friend Jonathan Lines. Jonathan, thanks for joining me again.
Pleasure to be here with you again.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Jonathan was on. He showed up with Michael Yon at our Border Security Caucus this morning, and they both spoke, and they both gave us just incredible pictures of what's going on from all the way from Panama all the way up to the U.S. southern border, and it's an amazing thing. You know, Matthew, can you play the first cut for us, please?
We have experienced over the past 2 days are markedly down over what they were prior to the end of Title 42.
What are the numbers, 5,000?
So we have seen, I think, approximately 6,300 on Friday and about 4,200 yesterday by the United States Border Patrol. And we saw over 10,000 before the end of Title 42 earlier last week.
Why do you think that is?
Because we have communicated very clearly a vitally important message to the individuals who are thinking of arriving at our southern border.
You know, Jonathan, I understand, I think, what he's trying to say, but give us the context, please.
So under the Trump administration, when he implemented the MPP protocols, or Remain in Mexico protocols, we averaged in the Yuma sector, which is 118 miles, managed by 800 agents, our average apprehensions on a daily basis, this does not include the gotaways, but our average apprehensions were 35 a day. So the context now is our averages right now are somewhere between 400 to 600 a day, with a spike last week of 1,600. So when he says they are markedly down, if you go back 2 years, it's a 20 to 30 times greater number, even 40 times or 50 times some days, of people coming across illegally into the United States.
So, Jonathan, if I understand this right, so last Thursday, Yuma had the second highest apprehension in its history of over 1,600 individuals apprehended, right?
Those are the people who gave themselves up. Border Patrol is still working on their gotaways, which is the most disconcerting number that we are focused on.
Okay. So on Thursday, 1,600 people cross the Colorado. They come either through Morelos Dam or Cocopah.
And 6,000 that were already in custody.
You already had 6,000 in custody for the previous week in anticipation of Title 42 going. And that facility, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like 1,200, 1,300 designed for.
So we were 250% over capacity before before May 11th.
Okay. So you get 1,600 people. And then the next day, Mayor Nichols told me he thought there was like 500 or 600 people apprehended or surrendered the next day and the day after.
Yep. And we averaged between 400 and 600 subsequently for the next 3 or 4 days. And right now, I think we're on track to be somewhere between 400 and 500 today.
And I think people would say, well, gee, Secretary Mayorkas is right. I mean, it's really slowed down. But you gave us context that under the last year under Trump is 35 a day, and we're 400 to 500 a day now.
Right.
Why did it slow down a little bit? You and I have had a lot of history on the border. We've watched surges. We've watched changes of administration. We watched changes of policy. Tell us about that.
So honestly, I believe that the cartel is trying to figure out what to do. How do they move these people across? They've been paid. And this morning, I was in Algodones, Mexico, in Baja California, and I was visiting with 3 people there. And they said that now the current and going rate for somebody to be smuggled across is $10,000. So the cartels have a lot invested in getting these people across. These people have a lot invested, and if there's no guaranteed delivery that they're going to be able to get across and be able to be processed and released, I think that's why we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown. People just aren't willing to risk it after spending their life savings or after indebting themselves to the cartel, which is a debt that they'll have to repay over many years.
So let's think about this. $10,000 is the going rate. The cartels, and we know, first of all, with the cartels, we know that CBP Chief Ortiz, Tucson Sector Maudlin, Sector Chief Maudlin, Rio Grande Sector Chief Chavez, former Yuma Sector Chief Clem, all have said that the cartels control the border, right?
100%.
Yeah, and that number. The cost is very sometimes as low as $3,000, $6,000, somewhere in there. But now you're telling me $10,000 is the going rate.
3 people confirmed for me today that 10,000 was the going rate from Mexico. And if you're coming from a different country, yesterday I was told that the Chinese pay anywhere from 30 to 60,000, and then other special interest countries. This morning I wonder how much those Afghans paid that were on the terror watch list to be smuggled into the United States through Arizona. People are going to do whatever they take if they have nefarious purposes or if they wish us harm. But this is what we are seeing on a daily basis. Now we're seeing a lot more coming from Mauritania, from Ghana, from Senegal, countries that we've never seen before. I think we're up to 134 different countries or nationalities of people coming through the Yuma sector.
It's fascinating stuff. 10,000, and it's not as fascinating. It would be an objective term. It's downright dangerous and frightening as well, because you're talking about, okay, so let's get out of this and let's pull this apart a little bit. $10,000 if you're coming from Mexico. So the cartels have an incentive to control that border. And so tell us about San Luis, the Mexican side of San Luis, and what's going on between the plaza bosses there.
Sadly to report, we've never experienced on the other side of the border the violence that we've seen over the last 14 months, where there have been between 250 and 300 assassination or hits between the cartel, sometimes aimed at policemen or federal officers or the military. So you have El Chapo's new generation, which are his sons, warring against the old faction or mid-level management, or maybe even upper-level management, vying for control, because you're talking about $5 million or more on a daily basis. And that's just if they're being smuggled from Mexico. And that's at the current number. So It's billions of dollars that these transnational cartels are extorting from these people that are coming across. Not everybody, again, has the ability to pay it. And so they are indebted, and they have to work that off while they're here in the United States.
So let's talk about this for a second. Amazing. We're talking literally in the current rates, $5 million a day. We're not even that's just the human trafficking. Doesn't include the sex trafficking. Doesn't include the drug trafficking.
The narcotics.
Yeah, and one of our people who's watching us sent in something saying they're concerned about the health and the diseases. I mean, I was just talking to an individual telling us we're seeing polio again. You're seeing strains of smallpox, things that have been eradicated in the United States. And I'll just tell you this. Now, this is not with this current batch, but I was down in Antelope Wells, which is in the boot of New Mexico, and was talking to a customs agent officer. And I'll never forget this. He said, and he started going through scabies, lice, tuberculosis, all of these diseases, which you just don't typically see in the U.S. And then he said, and then we had a guy who had some bacteria or something that was literally eating his skin, and we never learned what that was about. Tell us about the health issues that you guys are seeing coming through.
Had this conversation with the port director, John Schwam, last year, and his people having to interface with people who are coming through the port of entry or who have been detailed out to Border Patrol. They still cannot identify some of the sicknesses that they have contracted. And, whether it's long COVID or a persistent cough or any other type of something that is not normal, they still don't know what they're dealing with. And now we have, tuberculosis on the rise again with the people that are coming across the border. And Border Patrol agents told me that they're extremely worried being in close proximity with a lot of these people because they're not quite sure what they're carrying with them. So they're putting their lives in additional danger every single day, trying to provide national security, trying to provide border security. And we need to support them and give them all of the tools that are necessary for them to do their jobs.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm going to ask you one last question because I promised you we would do a kind of a quick hit on this because every day I'm doing this and bringing different angles around. I don't think most people understand. Okay, I got two questions. Okay, I got enough to
Go
two.
ahead.
You guys are two. Okay, because both of these are related. One, and they're national security questions. So Yuma sector and Tucson sector, both in the last week, have interdicted people on the terror watch list. Tell us what you know about that.
This is what worries me and keeps me up at night. This is where I struggle. I know that we have a humanitarian element and we're doing the best that we can to take care of the women and children that are coming across who have been subject to all manner of evil at the hands of the cartels and the people that are smuggling them. But we have those that will and want to do us harm. And while Border Patrol, again, is busy with these large volumes of people, and I am sad to learn that 500 a day doesn't concern Mayorkas in one sector, while we have 20 to 30,000 already in custody, and that constant churning of people through the processing centers. But the gotaways are what concern me. The gotaways are what concern Border Patrol. That's what concerns our Arizona troopers. That's what concerns our sheriffs. Right. I've been contacted by sheriffs from other states who listened to some of the presentations that I gave. They are concerned because these people are making their way into their communities. They are utilizing the same smuggling routes to increase the narcotics trafficking, but also to support their terrorist organizations back home. And they're partnering with the cartels. We saw in Northern California where they had gone into a few small communities and kind of taken over these growing houses. And there were several murders in those areas. Again, that's all cartel related, but the terrorists are partnering with the Mexican cartels. They are empowering them to get across our borders. And while Border Patrol is busy with that group of 500, we've got 20, 30, or 40 other people from special interest countries here in Yuma sector. We've had 17 nations or people from 17 nations come across who are on the terror watch list. And thank heavens for that first line of defense with Border Patrol and U.S. Customs.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what concerns me is we know that I think there's, I think you guys had 5 in your sector and 1 in Tucson sector. Yeah, we caught 6, but how many did we not catch?
How many got through? Yeah, that's what keeps me up.
away.
Yeah, 100%.
And okay, so that leads me to the last national security type of issue for you, and that is food security is a national security issue, and a lot of people don't realize how robust an agricultural community Yuma really is. And you provide in excess of 90% of all the green vegetables, leafy green vegetables
during the
in
winter
the United States. If you're eating a salad anytime from October to April, it's coming from Yuma, Arizona.
Yeah.
But what happens when you have this rampant, out of control border situation that we have today?
It certainly increased the production costs of all of the farmers and ranchers along the border, where they've had to actually hire additional security. When this first started, we had people camping out in fields. And then we had to bring in Arizona Department of Ag and others, the College of Science, to come in, do the testing, and either destroy the crop or let it go to seed. But we've had people camping out in the fields. We are through the harvest right now. Now we're growing your pasta crops, not for you, Andy, but for other people, the durum wheat. It's a real concern when we have people coming into ag production areas that don't understand food safety. They don't understand what they're doing by contaminating. I appreciate the extra steps that the ag community has put into place so that they can self-police, but then call in the troops when they need it. The damage in last year, I believe, was in excess, and some of those farmers testified to that when we had our meeting, in excess of $500,000 all up and down that border. So they are going to continue. We've now posted it at the behest of the sheriff so that we can enforce aggravated trespassing, and that he is empowered to remove people when that happens.
Yeah, we rely on Yuma. The whole country does, and so it's rough to see that. And when we had the field hearing down there, the testimony of some of the farmers about having to destroy crops without compensation. So there's no insurance that they can get for this. They just they
sought redress through the government, and everybody listened, but nobody stepped up to the plate. And those crops are not insurable.
Right.
That was the one point that they made.
Yeah.
They're excluded.
Well, but we'll see what happens in the farm bill coming up. We'll see what happens. You never know, Jonathan.
Well, let's get a budget deal, right?
Let's not distract from the issue we've been talking about. We've been good friends. Let's not ruin a good friendship.
I just listened to the speaker.
Well, Jonathan, again, thanks so much. And
you're very welcome.
I'll be getting down there as soon as I can again, and we'll go visiting. I was just down in Tucson sector. I was before that Del Rio, and then back to Yuma. So I've been all over in the last month and a half or whatever.
Well, I appreciate your focus on Yuma, and I don't know, you've been here, 30 or 40 times. So thank you for coming down here and adopting this. We love Paul Gosar, but thank you for adopting us as your second district.
Absolutely. Well, I'm concerned. Arizona is a great state, and every year we have 1 million plus legal immigrants come to the U.S. More than any other country in the world become citizens of the U.S. legally.
Andy, I wanted to say one thing.
Yeah.
We have one of the largest migrant populations of people who cross legally during our harvest season, up to 10,000 a day coming across, but they have done it legally and lawfully. 95% of them choose to return home on a daily basis because they are from this region. And the agricultural community depends upon those hardworking immigrants and those people who have dedicated their life to farming. And so we support legal and lawful immigration, but our process is so corrupted and so broken that unless we put our finger in the dam, cut off all of the supply, and come up with a resolution to fix it, it's going to endanger all of the border communities and the border states.
Yeah, and for anybody who's listening, if you ever want to see something amazing, be down there during the harvest season when all the people are coming across. By the way, if they're crossing, it's taking them hours and hours to get across. They
3
go
to
out
5 hours every day.
Yeah, they go out and work a long day, then they go back, and they just keep it up. It's an amazing process. But right now we're being overrun by those who are coming into the country illegally. And quite frankly, a lot of them don't have bad intentions, but you know what? They're stepping in front of the millions of people who are waiting to get in the country legally. And the other thing is they're being used by the cartels to divert away from the people coming in with malevolent intentions.
Yep.
And it's a sophisticated effort by the cartels. They're incredible with their logistical planning. And we as a government, as we had testimony last week in one of my committees, we've become the logistics arm for the cartels, and particularly for human smuggling, and it's a travesty. It's a shame.
Fix it, please.
Consider it done.
All right.
Jonathan, again, thanks so much. Thank everybody for joining us today. You can catch us. Jonathan, how can they catch you on social media?
I haven't posted a lot of these things. I've turned over a lot of this information to law enforcement and to you guys specifically to use it in your narrative, but I'm on Facebook, Jonathan W. Lines, or Supervisor Jonathan W. Lines, and also on Instagram. That's personal. And you can also contact me through the county if you want to make it official, but I'm here to answer those questions and certainly to be able to provide context for a lot of people that don't necessarily understand it. I get requests from all over the nation for real context and real pictures that's unfiltered, and I'd love to be able to provide that for them.
Yeah, and it's great. And Jonathan's been taking me and many congressmen and women down to the border many times. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get the audio version of this podcast, you can go to either Spotify or Apple Podcast at What's the Big's Idea. You can follow me at Twitter at RepAndyBiggsAZ. You can put all your hateful comments on Congressman Andy Biggs. That's on Facebook. You could go to Truth at RepAndyBiggsAZ. We welcome all the comments, kind and hateful. But you know what? This is a great country, and I love this country. And it's an honor to have great friends like you, Jonathan. And we'll
Thank
tune
you
in
very
next
much,
time.
Andy. And they can also look for me on some of your retweets, but it's at JW Lines on Twitter.
Great.